go. This is it. This is episode 391. I have to look at the paper to get that. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd remember that. But it's episode 391. The part I do know is that we're at Acme, and this is No Laugh Track Podcast. I'm Justin, and you're Anthony.
I am.
DeVito.
Hi. Yeah, man. It's nice to see you again, Justin.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's for the one person that doesn't remember. Everybody remembers how long it's been.
Oh,
but
I'm sure.
I'll remind that one person. Last time you were here was May of 2019.
Yeah, I'm sure the public knows. They keep accurate records of my appearances on the No Laugh Track podcast.
Exactly. So mark this one down now. This is now September 2020, and welcome back.
Thanks, man. Always love it here.
Nothing's happened in the last year or so, right?
Not to my knowledge, man. You know, I haven't seen or heard anything. Business as usual on my end.
Yeah, but ditto. I'll tell you one thing on the drive over here. Actually, this is the first thing I want to mention to you. I want to get your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Just left my house to drive over here, and there's two guys sitting on their front driveway in front of their house. It's two guys with a table. It's full of stuff. I'm like, what do they have there? I look closer. Huge DVD sale.
Oh, okay.
Not a garage sale. Not like we're selling all of our stuff. Not a moving sale. Like we're selling the old lamps and clothes. Just DVDs in their driveway.
Yeah, I mean,
your thoughts?
I get it. Just because I don't know if you remember when DVDs first came out, I think I was around high school or college. I was so excited. Like, I don't know how many times I watched The Matrix with just looking at the explosions and being like, it's so clear. Like, So I get having a vast collection of DVDs. And then
did you already own it on VHS before you bought it on DVD? Because I had a roommate at around that same time where they popped and everybody was collecting stuff. He was buying movies for a second time, and he was getting them. Like it would be like what's the old Young Frankenstein?
Oh, sure.
It was never recorded in like high def.
Right.
It was never good quality. It was always black and white.
Totally.
He brought that home on DVD, and I was like, I don't think the quality's gonna improve much.
Well, that was. I don't know. Yeah, I would do that thing because I'm like a dumb enough person where I'm like, I just feel like it's funnier now. You know, I just, I totally thought that and did that.
The jokes pop, man.
Where I'd be like, yeah, before I couldn't really appreciate Gene Wilder's performance, but now with perfect clarity, this movie's incredible.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember because I didn't really collect VHSs because I don't know if you remember too. Like VHSs, if it wasn't the most popular movie, they were like $100.
Crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I remember for Christmas one year asking for a bunch of things and then tacked on Weekend at Bernie's 2, thinking like, oh, this will just be another thing in the bunch. And my mom was like, it was old enough where she wasn't, there wasn't Santa Claus. And I remember her being like, yeah, about this list, Weekend at Bernie's is $90. And I remember it was like, how bad do you want this? So I remember that was like, I never had a lot of VHSs because the more obscure ones were so costly.
They were.
Yes. When DVDs came out, every DVD was like, at most, it was maybe $19.99.
Yeah.
So I remember being like, oh, I'm going to build up this giant collection of DVDs. Because I remember going to college with binders full of DVDs, excited to impress people with them. And then, I don't know how many years later, it was just DVDs were obsolete, and it was this learned lesson to just never do that again.
Never. Where do you know where they are now? That case of that folder of DVDs.
Yeah, my mom has them somewhere in her apartment, and I remember, I don't know if you did this trick too, where I would hide. I think I bought one porno DVD. I remember going to Times Square in New York, and this is back when like New York's like economy just ran on cum and pretzels. And I remember buying a DVD of this movie. I think this girl Devin was in it, who I was a big fan of at the time.
Devin.
And I remember it was underneath a DVD for Escape from Alaska, which was it's like more embarrassing to have that. It was this like bad Kurt Russell action movie, and hidden behind that, and I can't remember the title of the porn, but like it was like that was way more embarrassing than Escape from Alaska. And
no
it was
one's
also,
ever gonna look behind Escape from Alaska.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, too, it was like what an outlier in the collection. Like it's like sure something is up with this DVD. The rest of it's like The Matrix and renowned movies,
right.
and then it was just like what is this?
Yeah, he has nothing but comedies and sci-fi, and then what in the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, and why does this DVD seem so thick?
You know what I need to do now is when I leave here, I'm gonna stop at if those guys still have their little shop open. I'm gonna see if they have Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh yeah, man. I'm such a fan of Weekend at Bernie's.
Dude, if I get your copy, where should I send it?
Oh, I'll send you my address. I'm hesitant to give it out on the podcast because I've done that too many times. But I'll give you my address. You want to send me Weekend at Bernie's?
I just want to share. Then the other thing that just happened to me before that is actually I'm driving a rental car right now. I had some damage to my car. It's getting fixed, insurance thing. So they're like, oh yeah, and the insurance will give you a rental car. It's covered. I'm like, oh, cool. Like I never get to drive something else for a little bit. The weekend maybe. Like, oh, what am I gonna get? Exact same car that I have.
Oh man,
yeah,
that sucks. That's the excitement of a rental car. Man, I was renting a car a month ago or so in New York, and the people in front of me, they opted for the mystery car. And it was just it was like a European couple excited to visit New York, and they got this gigantic long bed pickup truck, and I was laughing so hard. They were it's like, yeah, where would you ever park that thing in New York?
In New York,
and the car company, it's like they couldn't be bothered. Like the people that work there, they're they've been working there throughout a pandemic, so they're surly.
Oh yeah,
and these people were like,
move along.
That was so funny. They were just like, do you have anything for door? And they were like, this is it, man. You got the mystery card. This is your mystery. And they were just like, okay, thank you. It's so funny.
Oh, that just makes me think like when I was a kid, I just got together with, I was telling you guys before this, I just got together with some guys I went to high school with I hadn't seen in years. And we were reminiscing, a lot of the guys I played baseball with.
Okay.
We were reminiscing about how many trips we went on in the back of someone's pickup truck. Like just sitting in the bed of a pickup truck on the highway.
Yeah.
Like five 11-year-olds.
Yeah, man. Just so dangerous. I remember because my uncle, there weren't like a ton of pickup trucks in North Jersey. My uncle did drive one. He worked construction. And I remember as a kid, he drove all over the road. And when I was a kid, I was like, oh, Uncle Paul drives fun. And then later on, I was like, oh, he was drunk. He was just drunk the whole time. And I was like, you got to ride with Uncle Paul, man. That guy's a blast. And it's like, no, he just endangered my life, my whole childhood.
Oh, no. I want to ask how things turned out for Uncle Paul.
He was the kind of guy, I think there's just certain people where their makeup, they can live dangerously or horribly, and they just survive.
It works for him.
Yeah, it worked for him. And he passed. I think he may pass last year. We didn't have the best relationship later on in life, but yeah, he was one of those guys where it's just like he's just gonna keep hanging around. It doesn't matter how many Boilermakers he drinks.
Right.
It's those are his vegetables.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It makes him him.
Yeah.
That's just who he is. Well, let's talk more about you now. So you're here in town doing the week here at Acme, headlining. I saw the show last night.
Yeah.
I did not come to the club. That is where everybody's socially distanced here really well. I watched via Zoom. Is how I did it.
I think this is I think this is the move in terms of like how to do it, because it's a big room and everyone is spaced so far apart very safely, which is comforting, for everybody.
Yeah.
But then it's just enough people where this feels like it felt like a full great show last night. So if you're watching at home, you get a very you get a safe experience of actually watching comedy, and then there's just enough people here where if you're performing comedy, it feels like a real show.
Yeah, good.
So I don't know. I just think that combination is for right now. I think that's the best I've seen it done, where I think everybody feels okay.
That's good to hear. I saw a comment. I think it was on your Twitter feed, and one of us needs to go and take care of this as soon as we're done here. This is very serious stuff. Someone you posted about how you were going to be here at Acme in Minneapolis, and they said, "Oh, well, too bad it's not available on the internet. Otherwise, I'd be able to watch."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's available. It's
I'll tell them. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell them.
So we got to get the word out on that. That is no. I'm emphasizing that now. There's no more excuses of, well, I don't live in that town.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse anymore.
Yeah, you can't make it to your living room.
You can't really. you have internet. We know you have internet. Everybody has internet access.
Yeah, I think this is great. I even think going forward, this is kind of a cool thing. I mean, comedy is best. It's a live medium, and that's, at its finest, that's how it should be experienced.
I agree.
But if it does get the word out, I don't know how you figure that out financially, but I do think it's really interesting, this idea of people watching from home, because also too, that's the thing, when you watch a special, it's so manicured and it's like tightly done, and it doesn't really capture just in every night at a club. So I think seeing that, I think, is a very cool thing.
That's a great point, because I mean, you can watch somebody's polished set with perfect lighting, and I mean there's good lighting here for your show.
Sure,
There's 3 cameras. It's HD.
Yes,
they're cutting through all 3 of them. But it isn't like the polished theater show.
Yes.
It's a club. It's a club gig.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I think. There was an old special, and I'm not, I wouldn't knock Dave Attell. He's, one of the best ever. But he had a special in a theater. I think it was called Captain Miserable, where it was just so polished that it didn't capture who he is, what the jokes are, and what he does. And then that other special that he had on Comedy Central, I think Roadwork maybe, where it was cut up sets from just whenever at a club, and it was like, this is unbelievable, because you've nailed the experience of going to a comedy club.
Yes, that is Dave Attell. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think having this removed, Zoom sort of element, I think, is a way to do that. So I don't know. I think, who knows going forward? I know nothing about business, so I don't know what that helps or hurts, with monetary stuff. Yeah. But I just think, I think it's an ingenious way to do that.
So you live in New York. I know you have to be paying attention to how things are being run there and getting into clubs and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
I saw, was it Tuesday of this week, there was some comedy club owners there in New York that had sort of like a press conference, and they're trying to get some answers of when the clubs are going to open.
Yeah, so I think it's tied to, because I think restaurants are able to open in some capacity. I think even maybe tomorrow or something. And so I think comedy clubs are, they made a plea to politicians to just include them in the fold of that. I mean, I obviously I'm on the side of it. What
sort of creative shows have you participated in? Have you done the park shows?
Yes.
The backyard shows?
Yeah.
Both?
Yeah, I've done, there's been, Sam New York Club has done, they have like 9 shows in Central Park that are going on. And then independent shows that are being run on rooftops and then in backyards. And I've been impressed, because a lot of them are just comics running it. And, you're familiar with comics. They're not the most upstanding of citizens. So I've really been impressed with the measures that they're taking with these backyard shows. People got creative, and it's been really fun. And it's also it's illegal. So
well, that's what I was. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That was sort of one of the points that was made in this article I read. It was like, hey, I think Christian Finnegan, the Canadian, he was interviewed in this thing I read, and he's going, look, we're doing it. We're cockroaches. You're not gonna snuff us out.
Yes.
Either you're gonna open the clubs, and we're gonna do it there, or we're gonna do it in people's backyards illegally, like we are already doing.
Yeah. No, it has like a very prohibition, speakeasy kind of feel to it, which is kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah. There is this moment where, I know I never really stole as a kid, but I have friends that stole all the time that would be like, there's a rush to it, and there's a little bit of that you get, which is fun.
When someone ever says that about stealing as a kid, I have still a vivid memory of I could take you to the gas station where it is on the east side of St. Paul, and I was probably 6 years old.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I had to have this pack of Rain Blow. It was called Rain Blow gum.
Okay.
And I remember sliding it so slowly into my pocket, but giggling the whole time.
Yeah.
That was the rush for whatever 7-year-old me.
Right.
I giggled the whole time.
I was always
I got away with it.
That's awesome, man. I was always way too nervous. I remember I accidentally stole a pack of baseball cards. I was tormented for like a week. I slinked back to put the baseball cards back in such a strange the guy. Yeah, I remember that because it was like a silver pack of Fleer baseball cards, and I was just looking at them, and offhanded, I didn't realize I was doing it. I just put it in my pocket, and then I got home, and I was like, oh my God, because I just remember being hammered as a kid, my permanent record. I just remember going, this will go on my permanent record.
Yeah.
So I remember going back a week later and I'm sure the guy was like, this kid's about to steal. He's being so weird.
Well, you were putting him back?
And I was putting him back. Yeah. Such a strange child.
He's acting very suspiciously.
Yeah,
Wait, he's emptying his pockets?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
I was waiting for a moment to increase our stock. This is weird.
That'd have been great if you went back to a store, the wrong one that doesn't even, we've
that's
never
really
sold
funny.
those in 10 years.
Yeah, some kid is randomly helping us. I know. Wants us to have these for some reason.
Well, see, we got a little people. There might not be parking spots right out front Acme if you come tonight, but there are right around the corner. I don't know if the mics are picking that up, but there is a little bit of construction on the road right now. So when right before everything shut down,
yes,
and the COVID hit and everything, and I saw on your...
Please, I call it the hoax, but continue.
One, I call it the China virus. You call it the hoax, I call it the China virus. I saw on your Instagram you were either about to or had just started doing a one-man show.
Yes, I had just written and was starting to kind of piece together and perform a one-man show about finding out that when I was a kid, finding out that my father was a made man in an organized crime family. Yeah, so I was in the throes of that, and then this happened.
Had you okay? So everyone that just heard you say that, including me, has a billion questions.
Sure, of course.
So what I saw that was like the next, like the thing I saw, I was like, and the next show was March 12th. So had you done any at that point?
Yes, I had done a week at a place called The Creek just to kind of just figure out what the show was, just figure out the bones of the show, I guess. And then from there, I had done a couple. I think I had done it maybe 4 more times beyond that, and it was starting to shape. And I remain very excited about it, and I plan on continuing it after everything comes back.
Okay.
But I was starting to shape, and then March 12th was the day when the NBA shut down.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks got the virus, and I remember I had to doing a one-man show. There's no string, it's not like comedy where you're just like, no, I think I'll try this part. It's like this is it's more rigid. So it was an audience of just scared people who had the NBA just closed down, and I was just like, my father, and they were like, this is nuts. It was wild.
Oh no,
wild.
Man. So you had to then obviously put that show on pause.
Yeah, it's just hard because it's stand-up I can do, or I was able to do pretty much every night. So it's like I could tinker with the parts and then see those parts in action every night. But with the one-man show, you're writing it as a whole piece, So it's like one thing in the beginning affects a part in the middle, which then has some effect to the end. So you have to do it that way. So I had to wait until the next time I was able to perform it, which could be, once a month or something like that. So it's not as easy as stand-up to kind of piecemeal a set together.
So I read I guess it'd be a review, somebody that saw it.
Yes.
Right, Vulture? Is that?
Yeah, a writer, Katie Mears. She came out and saw a show. She's just a longtime friend. She used to be. I actually know her from when she was in college because our podcast, the Rad Dudecast, has been going on for like 8 years, 7 years, whatever it is. And she used to be our weather girl we just thought it was funny to have a weather girl. We didn't have a lot of fans, so she was our weather girl on the podcast, and she would just tell us the weather, and we thought it was funny. And then she just was really interested in comedy, and then eventually became a writer, a freelance writer for Vulture, and then came out, saw the show, and wrote a piece about it, which was very, very nice of her.
That is so cool.
It was really cool.
That is so cool. So one of my favorite lines that she wrote about your show is that, well, actually, not, yeah. She said that oftentimes when comedians write one-man shows, they forget about the funny part.
Yeah,
about it being funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the goal. I never set out to make this a dramatic piece. I thought it could be compelling and funny. Just in the way that I watched Gary Gulman's that last HBO special that he did about mental depression. Yeah, and I just thought it was remarkable in terms of like how many jokes he fit into a really interesting narrative. Yeah. So I wanted to do something that was similar to that. I mean, Birbiglia obviously is a master at it. But yeah, I wanted something, and it's in the mix of being done. So I don't know that it right now has like an identity to it, but somewhere between, a Birbiglia show and what Gary had done.
How long was it taking you to tell that story in a night to people?
I mean, I think it probably averaged about 40 minutes where it was at.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I mean, it's still like in the sort of infantile stages of it, because I started writing it last September, and then the first time I did it was December. So I wrote it over the course of a couple months, and I just treated it like writing stand-up, where I would just write it. I would just, bother with it every day.
Yeah, amazing. So from what I've read, and you had, and I think did you even mention? Yeah, you mentioned a bit on stage last night.
Yeah, I tried a bit from it. Yeah.
Yeah, about he passed away before you were born, or when you were one.
Yes.
Okay. And then
where I was one, yeah. You know my memory. You know my history better than I do.
You were actually 75 days old. No. I talked to your mom about this. I needed exact facts.
I'd be so happy she's talking to anyone.
But so let's do the quick version of the story. So
sure.
Growing up, you didn't know.
No,
I
did not know.
Some lies.
Yes, I was told a series of lies. Some were just my mother omitting. It was the truth. She just omitted a lot of details around the truth.
Yeah.
Like she told me he died in a car accident, and then later on I found that they found him in a car, in the trunk of a car. So it was a car on purpose. But it was like, yeah, well, technically speaking, that did, she had parts of it right. But yeah, no, she had her reasons for not telling me the truth, and those reasons are good reasons. They were safety reasons. She didn't want anyone to look at me differently because of the familial ties that I had. So there were no parts of me which was ever really mad at her for it. Like, I got why she was doing what she did, and she was very forthcoming about the brutality of the situation. So in doing that, I was like, yeah, thank you. There were no parts of me that were, and it did shape who I am going from, I was headed in a direction that clearly was not his line of work. But then from then on, it very much even further shaped who I am in terms of this docile, gentle, laid-back creature.
Man, so like I got a really discounted what do you call that? I got a membership to that website, the app Ancestry. Where you can like do your family tree.
Yeah.
Just recently. So I'm like in the last month of that right now.
Yeah.
It's just funny because literally just last night I got an email like, oh, we have new clues to the Severson family tree. And one of them was a bunch of pictures from my mom's yearbook.
Okay.
In this small town in southwestern Minnesota. And I saw I had no knowledge of this. My mom at one point was the school mascot.
Oh,
so I
cool.
saw a picture last night of my mom in a tiger costume from, the 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's quite different than your story.
Yeah, when I look him up on the internet, there are different tales. But
could you? So, like, how many more? That's not the right way to ask that. since you found out all about
Mm-hmm.
the real story,
Yeah.
like how many things are just like, oh, well, now that makes sense.
A million.
And
Everything.
oh, and that makes sense. And have you met other family now? Because I think I read that you didn't really know much family from your dad's side at all.
Yeah, I didn't really know much. I knew, I knew some, and they've always been genial. They've always been friendly. Like there's no animosity or anything like that. But I think for my mom, she was apprehensive, just just given the nature of what he was into. And that's not to say everybody in his family is or was doing that. I was just like that. She was scared for that reason.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Have you so have you gone, like, was he? I read there like he spent some time in prison.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Have you gone back and then like looked at all the details? Like, were there news articles about him?
There were.
When he
yes.
was committing these crimes.
Yeah, they're hard. They're hard. They're hard to look at just because when you see it, it's removed. It's just abstract if you don't have any ties to it. But I look at it and I'm like, that's my dad,
Yeah.
So if I watch The Sopranos, I'm not like, that's a character burying a body in the woods. I'm like, that's Papa. Like just a different. It's a different feeling. So and then my mom will drop sort of things here and there. But it's at her comfortability levels.
Sure.
So
has she told you, like, have you got to moments where she's like, and we're not?
Yes. Just because it's still painful for her to go back to those places, and that's not to say she fell in love with him as a man, and I mean, and that is what a lot of the show is about, is like reconciling a person, not just for one part of them, but for all these other parts of them.
I'm sure.
So it's painful for her for a lot of reasons. But she'll just say things offhanded that are just like, Jesus. You know what I mean? She'll like, oh yeah. She'll be like, Kansas. I've been to Kansas because that's where he was serving, and I would be like, oh, I'm just always taken aback by it.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Man, I can only imagine. So gangsters are known for having nicknames.
Yes.
Was there a nickname that you've
yes,
learned of?
there was, but I won't
say?
Disclose details or anything like that.
That's
just
fair.
because of her trepidation.
That's fair enough. Just
yeah.
What were you gonna say?
No, and I was gonna say my own too. I'm not. She's not the only one holding me back.
So, excuse me. You found. You started piecing this together, I think I read, because you met a cousin of yours?
Yeah, I was playing basketball in high school, and I would play every day, and it was just at a playground park in the neighborhood, and there was a guy, he looked like me, and I was kind of just struck by that a little bit, and then afterwards he just came up to me and he was like, hey, I'm your cousin, because everyone was calling me DeVito on the court, and he was like, I'm your cousin, and I was like, huh, and he was like, from your father's side, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, I was excited because I'm an only child. I don't have a ton of family, especially any that are my age. So I went home and I told my mom, and that's when my mom told me, because at that point she was like, oh, I have to tell him, just because I don't want him to start building a relationship with this cousin, not knowing the depths of it.
Sure. Now, did anybody ever consider, and maybe this might be the dumbest question I've ever asked.
No,
but you
fine.
found out because of your last name. What if
Yes.
you would have changed your name? Do you know if there was ever like, I'm really gonna hide this. We're gonna call him Tim Anderson from now on.
Yeah. No, that's not something I actually ever thought of. That's interesting, man.
And then the name of the name of the show is
My dad isn't Danny DeVito. Yes. Yeah.
Have you researched to know if there's any connections in the Danny DeVito's family?
No, I never have actually. There was because that Vulture article came out, and then it got some press, and people came out to the show from the article, which was really cool. And my manager at the time, because I think with these one-man shows, they want to attach a bigger name to them. to draw people in, and she was, I guess Danny DeVito was an option. But he had never seen the show or anything like that. And I mean, the first line as it stands in the show is making fun of his appearance. So I have no idea. I have no idea if he'd be on board. But I thought that would be so funny if I did the show. The whole show is about how my dad isn't Danny DeVito, and at the last minute I introduce my dad, and he just comes out, and it is Danny DeVito. I thought it would be perfect.
Please, just once.
Yeah,
just once.
I thought it would be amazing.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not doing that material here. Like, you're not doing that show here at
Yes.
the Comedy Club at Acme.
Yeah.
But there are maybe some aspects of that.
Yeah, I mean, that joke is that joke about Danny DeVito translates into stand-up
Really well.
But
Really well.
but the other ones, they're tied to the show. They don't work out of place in stand-up. And also the thing is too, it's like, yeah, I'm well aware if I bring it up, that's all people want to hear about that.
Sure.
You know, there's no talking about that and then being like, and my girlfriend.
Right.
Like nobody cares beyond that, which I totally understand. And because I'm more of I'm less of a lengthy storyteller as a comedian.
Yeah.
I tell stories, but they're usually more anecdotal with, jokes, peppered throughout them. So for this, I was having trouble originally writing it because it felt too much like stand-up, and I got the advice of just write the story, don't worry about the jokes, and then, as you're doing it, the jokes will fill themselves
They'll
in.
kind of come to you.
So yeah, out of context, they don't really make as much sense.
Okay. So the your comedy album, that's what, 3 years old now?
Yeah, 2017.
So how are you going to find time? So now we're in a pandemic, so there's probably less dates to do shows.
For sure.
The clubs aren't exactly open where you live.
Yeah.
How you're working on new stuff now, right?
Yeah, I was
What's the plan, man?
Man, the plan. Honestly, who knows?
Who knows, right?
Graduate school, open a hardware store. I have no idea. But the plan, the plan right before the pandemic, I was pretty satisfied because I was 10 minutes away. I think from a new album.
Oh.
So that's where I stand right now. I think I might have like 5 minutes maybe, and this is being generous, from the pandemic that could add on to that album. So I'm really searching for another 5 to 8 minutes.
Oh, well,
and
that's not much.
yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but because some comics are so great at just observing the world at large and just having great material from that. And I've tried to do that. Every time I do that, I always think I have this like unique and thought-provoking idea. And then I go on Twitter and it's like 40 teenagers have just said the same thing and better than I have. So things usually need to happen to me in order for me to produce valuable material, and it's just not a lot has happened during this. So I've been going through any open mic set or bar show that I've recorded from when I did my last album to now, and just listening for jokes that I'm like, oh, I didn't know how to do that at the time, but with fresh ears, I could see that this joke is funny, but maybe it's like a couple words away or whatever.
Yeah, we had John DeBoer was on. We did 2 shows last week, and he was saying some of that same thing.
Yeah, I think for certain comics, that's just the way that we have to do it. But then other ones obviously like Michelle Wolf, friend, she can just look at what's happening and get a new hour of material.
Right.
I'm happy to get 30 seconds, and usually that 30 seconds is mildly funny. It's not even that good.
Let's wrap this up in a second here, but
For sure.
You did mention your podcast.
Yes.
You're still doing that, the Rad Dude Cast.
Yes.
I have a question just about how you guys are. Not because it's going to be happening here. This will always be a free podcast. It's all about promoting the acts that are working here to get people to come to Acme. But you guys do charge. You guys have a Patreon, and you do charge for some. So I'm curious. I'm looking through, and it's like $5 up, $10, $15. What the hell is that?
Yeah. So before the pandemic, because we're all 3 working comics, Greg Stone, Brendan Ayer, myself.
Yeah.
We're able to work the road and make money with stand-up. But then with the road being shut down, the only money that we could foresee really generating was the podcast. So we used to do one free episode and one Patreon episode where people would pay $5 extra and they would get two, they would get a bonus episode per week.
Yep.
But then when the pandemic happened, we ramped up to 3 Patreon episodes, and then we included a $10 tier if you wanted to get 2 bonus episodes, and then a $15 tier if you wanted to get 3 episodes, as our only way of really surviving during this.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have been doing a lot of podcasting.
So this was something I couldn't foresee because we do it over StreamYard or Zoom. I'm so sick of looking at my own face. Like before, I never did, and now, it's like unbearable. That was like an unforeseen challenge of this thing. Was just my nose.
Have you? There was a Twitter account that I was following. I don't even know if I am anymore, but it's Room Rater. Have you seen that?
No.
Room Rater. Not Rater, Rater.
Oh,
they're
okay.
rating people's backgrounds of their Zoom, whatever they're doing.
That's great. That's hilarious.
Have you paid attention to what's in the background of yours? I watched a little bit of one of yours, and your buddy Greg
Yes.
clearly is into like action figures.
Yeah, he's been very good about like setting up a nice visual. He has like an array of action figures set up. It very much looks like, this is interesting to look at. Brendan, the other guy, same thing. He's tried to put up like a poster of like Taxi Driver and some. It looks like a college dorm room. Like whatever he's attempted, it's like you look like a liberal arts sophomore. You look like an idiot.
I thought the same thing.
And then for mine, I haven't done anything. It's just whatever our den looks like. But
girlfriend's not letting you touch that.
No. She's not like, please, for the good of the podcast, please ruin our life.
Anything, honey.
But I will say that I've enjoyed that part of. Early on, I think I watched this like CNN. He was just like a digital something or other specialist, and you could tell he's not like a guy doing great. So one of his roommates popped out in the background while he's like explaining to the world about global markets, and like his roommate just came out of the shower, and I like that element of the pandemic I've enjoyed.
Right. Like,
yeah.
We all got our shit at home.
Yeah.
That could go wrong.
Dude, there was one because my girlfriend and I have been watching these blooper videos. These just like on YouTube, and there was one where it was this news anchor, broadcasting from Zoom in his like office space, and then a door just flung open, and his kid burst through the door, and then his wife ran and grabbed the kid, and she is Asian, and then it cut back to the studio, and the guy goes, "That must be his nanny." And I was like, "Are you?" My girlfriend and I were like flabbergasted, like, "Holy shit!" We couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. We were laughing so hard at like, "Well, that guy's fired. That's a given." I mean, wow. Oh man, it was great.
He's gonna be apologizing after the commercial break.
Yeah. We were both like, "Why would you ever? Why would that even need to be brought up? Like, what world were you just like, well, I should comment on the nature of their even if it's like, wow, I was like, man, these moments are beautiful.
That is perfect. That's a perfect way to end it here. People should follow you on social media. They should subscribe to your podcast, subscribe to this podcast if they haven't yet. Leave reviews for all of them.
For sure.
And most importantly, come see a show here at Acme. If not this weekend, hopefully this weekend to see Anthony DeVito. Maybe watch via Zoom. Next week, we're going to have another act here. Let's keep supporting Acme.
Keep supporting this club. It's one of the best comedy clubs in the country, and we would be devastated without it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's keep it going here. And Anthony, thank you. See you.
Of course, man. Always nice talking to you.
See you in a year.
Yeah. See you in a year, man.